So you're thinking about opening a restaurant in Utah.
Exciting.
Exciting, right?
Yeah.
But before you fire up those ovens,
Right.
we got to talk location.
Yeah.
Because here in the Beehive State, picking the right spot for your restaurant, it's about more than just finding like a busy street corner.
That's right.
Right.
Utah's dining scene is unique.
Yeah.
And this article from Menuvial blog really digs into those nuances.
And one thing that really jumped out at me was this whole idea of Utah's unique flavor. It's not just about the food, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The article talks about how
Yeah.
deeply ingrained family values are in Utah culture and how that translates to the restaurant scene.
Totally.
It mentions that successful restaurants here often go above and beyond to cater to families
Right.
with things like extensive kids menus and even dedicated play areas.
Which makes total sense when you think about it.
Right.
You're not just competing for date nights and happy hours here.
Yeah,
You're competing for those family outings.
exactly.
Those big Sunday brunches where grandma and grandpa are in tow.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And then you've got this fascinating intersection of the health-conscious foodie scene with Utah's love for the outdoors.
Okay, unpack that one for me.
Okay?
How do those two things connect to location scouting?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
Utahns are known for their active lifestyles.
Right.
They're out hiking, biking, skiing.
Yeah.
They value healthy choices.
Mm.
So if you're opening a restaurant that focuses on fresh,
Okay.
local ingredients,
Yeah.
organic options,
Right.
being near those trailheads,
Right.
those parks,
Okay.
those places where people are already embracing that lifestyle,
Yeah.
could be a real win.
It's like you're tapping into an existing mindset, right?
Yes.
They're already in that headspace of,
Totally.
I'm active, I care about what I eat,
Exactly.
and you're providing a delicious extension of that.
Precisely.
I like it.
It's about aligning your concept with the values of the community.
Okay.
And that leads us to a crucial point that this article emphasizes.
Okay.
Understanding your diner,
Right.
but not just in the general sense,
Okay.
in the Utah sense.
Because a steakhouse in Park City is going to have a very different clientele than a vegan cafe and sugar house. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the obvious differences in cuisine.
Yeah.
The article talks about how Utah's population, while united by certain values,
Sure.
is also incredibly diverse in terms of age, income, lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely.
Are you targeting young professionals in downtown Salt Lake City
Right.
or families in the suburbs of Lehigh?
Totally different.
Are you catering to the budget-conscious college crowd
Yeah.
or the affluent skiers in Deer Valley?
You know, it's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I remember once I went to this super trendy ramen place in downtown Salt Lake.
Let me guess.
Uh,
Not exactly designed with high chairs in mind.
you got it.
Okay.
It was all exposed brick and Edison bulbs,
Right.
which, don't get me wrong, can be cool.
Yeah.
But it was clear they weren't aiming for the family crowd.
Well,
And in a state like Utah, where families are such a big part of the dining scene, that felt like a missed opportunity.
it highlights the importance of market research.
Yeah.
Really understanding the demographics of your chosen location.
Right.
And it's not just about locals either.
Right.
We can't forget about Utah's booming tourism industry.
Oh, yes. The greatest snow on earth effect.
Exactly.
We've got visitors from all over the world flocking here.
Exactly.
So how do you make a location work
right.
for both those local loyal customers
Right.
and the tourists who might only be in town for a week?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The article suggests thinking about your ideal tourist.
Okay.
Are they a family on a road trip,
Okay.
stopping for a hearty meal on their way to Moab?
Okay.
Or are they a group of skiers looking for a trendy après-ski spot near the slopes in Park City?
So location isn't just about the address. Right.
It's about being strategically positioned within the broader landscape of Utah's attractions and activities.
Absolutely. It's about understanding the flow of traffic,
Yeah.
both literal and figurative.
Mhm.
Are you on the way to a national park
Right.
or tucked away in a quiet neighborhood that mainly attracts locals?
Totally.
These are crucial factors to consider.
And that probably plays into the age-old debate
Yes.
of urban versus suburban locations, right?
Exactly.
We all know that Utah has seen explosive growth
Yes.
in both its cities and suburbs in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that factor into the location equation?
That's a great question, and
Yeah.
it's something the article delves into as well.
Okay.
Now, I think there's often this assumption
Yeah.
that if you want to make it big in the restaurant world.
You've got to be in the heart of the city, right?
Right. You imagine those bustling sidewalks,
Yes.
the after-work crowds, the tourists who are here to soak up the big city vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the article points out that while Salt Lake City, for example, offers that vibrant urban energy, it also comes with some significant challenges.
Like sky-high rent prices.
Oh, absolutely.
I've heard some horror stories about restaurant owners pouring their life savings into a place.
Oh, yeah.
Only to get slammed with rent hikes they just can't keep up with.
It's a real concern.
Brutal.
And it's forcing many restaurateurs to look beyond the bright lights of the city.
So let's talk about the suburbs then.
Okay.
What are some of the advantages of setting up shop outside of the urban core?
Sure.
Particularly in Utah.
Well, one of the biggest draws is obviously the cost factor.
Okay.
The article mentions that rent prices in many Utah suburbs are significantly lower than in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
Which can be a major advantage.
Right.
Especially for someone just starting out.
Sure.
You might be able to afford that larger space, that outdoor patio you've always dreamed of.
Not to mention, finding parking in the suburbs is usually a breeze.
Yes.
Which is a huge plus for families or anyone who values convenience.
Absolutely.
Right.
And while the suburbs might not have the same level of foot traffic as a bustling downtown area, they often make up for it with a strong sense of community.
It's that whole everybody knows your name kind of vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The article mentions how many successful suburban restaurants in Utah have thrived by becoming true community hubs. They host events. They partner with local schools. They become a gathering place for families and friends.
It's like they're woven into the fabric of the community.
Yes.
And that kind of loyalty, that sense of connection is priceless.
Absolutely.
But of course, whether you're in the heart of the city or nestled in a cozy suburb, there's one thing no restaurant owner can escape.
That's right.
Costs.
Costs.
And this article does not let you off easy there.
No.
It goes way beyond.
It really does.
Just signing that rent check.
Yes.
It digs into those hidden costs that can sneak up on you. And it highlights how crucial it is to factor these into your budget from the get-go.
Yes.
And we're talking about things like build-out costs, which in a place like Utah that's constantly evolving can be significant.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're trying to bring an older building up to code, right?
Oh, yeah.
I imagine things like plumbing, electrical ADA compliance. Those renovations can add up quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The article gives a hypothetical example.
Okay.
Imagine you find this charming old building full of character.
Yeah.
Perfect for your farm-to-table bistro concept.
I love it.
But then you discover that bringing it up to code would cost you an extra $50,000.
Wow.
Compared to a newer space.
Ouch.
That's a serious factor in your location choice.
Talk about a budget buster.
Yes.
And then, of course, you've got those ongoing costs like utilities, which, let's be honest, no one likes to think about until they're staring at a hefty bill.
Right.
And it's not just about the monthly expenses.
Right.
The article mentions how important it is to consider the energy efficiency of a building.
Okay.
Especially here in Utah, where we experience those extremes of hot summers and cold winters.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
An older building with poor insulation could mean your heating and cooling costs are through the roof.
Exactly.
Which eats into your bottom line.
Exactly. And then, of course, we can't forget about everyone's favorite topic.
Okay. Ah, yes. The necessary evil of navigating bureaucracy.
That's right. This article points out that Utah has its own unique set of regulations and licensing requirements.
Yes.
Which, if you're not careful, can really throw a wrench in your plans.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to alcohol.
Especially when it comes to alcohol.
Right. Utah's alcohol laws are, shall we say, distinctive?
To say the least.
A little different.
The article gives a specific example that really struck me.
Oh, okay.
It points out that in some Utah towns, you can't open a bar within a certain distance of a school or church.
Wow.
That's a zoning restriction that could make or break your concept.
Really?
Especially if you're envisioning a bar-centric establishment.
It's a great reminder that you can't just assume one size fits all when it comes to these regulations. Well, you've really got to do your homework, consult with local authorities, and make sure you understand the lay of the land before you commit to a location.
Absolutely.
And speaking of the lay of the land, we've talked about costs.
Yes.
We've talked about regulations. But what about the practicalities of getting people in the door?
Right.
You mean besides enticing them with the smell of delicious food?
Well, that's a given.
Obviously, right.
I'm talking about accessibility.
Okay.
The article highlights that while Utah is very much a car-centric state, there are significant variations in public transportation infrastructure.
Okay.
Especially between urban and suburban areas.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Salt Lake City has the TRAX light rail system,
right,
which the article mentions can be a game changer for restaurants located near stations. You're tapping into that whole commuter crowd.
Exactly.
The tourists who might not have rented a car.
Right.
Right.
But if you're opening a family-friendly restaurant in a suburb like Draper, where most people rely on cars, having ample parking is going to be non-negotiable.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've definitely been guilty of driving past a restaurant because the parking lot was packed.
I have too.
It's like that instant mental calculation.
Yes.
Is the food worth the parking hassle?
And let's be honest.
Right.
The answer is usually no.
No.
Especially when there's another restaurant just down the road.
Right.
With a giant parking lot and a parking validated sign.
It's true.
Right.
We're simple creatures.
Yes.
Easily swayed by convenience.
Absolutely.
But beyond just getting there, there's also the question of fitting in.
Right.
The article spends quite a bit of time talking about the importance of vibing with the neighborhood. And I have to say, this is one of those things that I think often gets overlooked. But it can make or break a restaurant.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It goes back to that idea of understanding your target audience and aligning your concept with the community.
Right.
Because a swanky cocktail lounge might not be the best fit for a neighborhood known for its family-friendly atmosphere and early bird specials.
I can already see the Yelp reviews.
I know, right?
Great cocktails, terrible kids menu.
Exactly.
Not exactly the recipe for success.
Definitely not.
And the article goes beyond just demographics.
Yeah.
It talks about really understanding the character of a neighborhood, the energy, the vibe.
Yes.
What are the existing businesses? What kind of events or activities take place there?
Exactly.
It's like you're trying to become part of an ecosystem, right?
Yes.
You want to complement what's already there.
Yep. Not clash with it.
That's right.
So how do you get a feel for that?
Yeah.
Is it as simple as grabbing a coffee at the local shop and people watching?
It can be.
Okay.
The article encourages potential restaurateurs to spend time in their chosen neighborhoods.
Right.
Not just as business owners, but as patrons, as observers.
I like it.
Walk the streets, visit the parks, chat with the locals, get a feel for the rhythm of the place.
And I imagine this is even more important in Utah.
Yes.
Where so many communities have such strong, distinct identities.
Absolutely.
Right.
Take Sugar House, for example.
Okay.
It's a historic neighborhood in Salt Lake City that's undergone a major revitalization in recent years, and it's become a real hub for young professionals, artists, and families.
But it's also retained that strong sense of community, that local pride.
So if you were opening a restaurant there, you'd want to make sure you were tapping into that vibe, that energy.
Exactly.
Right.
And that might mean incorporating elements of the neighborhood's history into your decor.
Okay.
Or sourcing your ingredients from local farms and producers.
Sure.
It's about showing that you understand and appreciate the community you're trying to become a part of.
It's about becoming part of the story.
Yes.
Not just imposing your own story on the neighborhood.
Exactly.
And that actually reminds me of another point this article makes about choosing a location that not only works for you today, but also has the potential to grow with you in the future.
You're talking about scalability, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
That's something that often gets overlooked, especially by first-time restaurateurs.
Yes, it's so important.
Right, because you might find this cute little hole in the wall that's perfect for your 20-seat bistro concept now.
Right.
But what happens when you're booked solid every night?
Exactly.
With a line out the door and a 2-hour wait?
Every restaurateur's dream, right?
In theory, yes.
Right.
But not if you're turning away customers left and right.
Right.
Because you simply don't have the space.
Exactly.
That's where thinking about scalability comes in.
Exactly.
Can you expand your kitchen?
Right.
Add more seating? Maybe even create a dedicated space for takeout orders, which, let's face it, have become huge these days.
It's true.
Right.
The rise of food delivery apps has really changed the game for restaurants.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've ordered takeout from a restaurant I've never even been to.
Right.
Just based on their online reviews and menu.
Which is why it's more important than ever.
Yeah.
To think about how your location can accommodate not just dine-in customers, but also the growing demand for takeout and delivery.
It's about thinking beyond those four walls.
Yes.
And envisioning how your food fits into the wider landscape of people's lives.
Right, exactly.
Maybe it's that go-to spot for a quick weeknight takeout meal or the place where people gather for special occasions.
Exactly.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your vision aligns with the practicalities of your location. And that often requires asking some tough questions up front.
Like what?
Can you add outdoor seating if you wanted to? Are there zoning laws that might limit your ability to expand in the future?
Interesting.
These are all questions to ask before you sign on the dotted line.
Those are all great questions to ask.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of finding a space that feels right.
Right.
But you don't want to fall in love with a location that can't accommodate your ambitions down the line.
And that brings us to the big decision.
Oh.
You've done your research.
Right.
You've scouted out potential neighborhoods. You've crunched the numbers and weighed the pros and cons.
Yeah.
How do you actually make the call?
Right.
How do you choose the location that's right for you?
Well, the article suggests creating a checklist of your non-negotiables.
Okay.
What are the absolute must-haves for your restaurant? Is it high foot traffic, ample parking, being on that coveted corner spot?
Or maybe it's being nestled in a quiet neighborhood with a strong sense of community.
Right.
Maybe it's about being close to public transportation.
Okay.
Or having a certain amount of square footage.
Whatever those non-negotiables are.
Right.
It's about getting them down on paper.
Yes.
And then, as the article suggests, actually scoring each potential location based on your criteria.
Almost like a restaurant location report card.
I love that.
Right.
It helps you get out of your head.
Yeah.
Compare apples to apples, or should I say tacos to tapas.
Very fitting.
But it's not all about spreadsheets and checklists, right?
That's right.
This article reminds us that there's also a human element to this decision-making process.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you just get a feeling about a place, right? That gut instinct that tells you, this is it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the article encourages you to listen to that gut feeling.
Yeah.
But to also back it up with solid research and due diligence.
Okay.
Talk to local real estate agents.
Right.
They often have their fingers on the pulse of what's happening in a neighborhood.
They know what's up.
They do
Yeah.
what's up and coming, what to watch out for.
And while you're at it,
yeah,
grab a coffee from that cute little cafe on the corner.
Exactly.
And chat with the barista.
Exactly. They might just become your most loyal customer.
That's right.
Right.
It's about tapping into the local knowledge.
Yeah.
Getting a feel for the community from the people who know it best.
Because at the end of the day, opening a restaurant is about more than just finding a space to serve food.
That's right. It's about creating an experience, a destination,
Yes.
a place where people feel welcome and want to return to again and again.
And sometimes that means looking beyond the obvious,
Right.
challenging your assumptions, and trusting your gut.
It's all about finding that balance, right?
Exactly.
And that can lead you to discover those hidden gems, those unexpected locations that just feel right, even if they weren't on your radar at first.
Right.
It reminds me of this one restaurant I stumbled upon in a little town outside of Moab.
Oh, I love a good restaurant discovery story.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So I was on a road trip, totally off the beaten path.
Okay.
And I wandered into this unassuming little place tucked away on a side street.
Yeah.
It didn't have fancy decor or a big social media presence, but the food was incredible.
Nice.
All locally sourced, cooked with love, and bursting with flavor.
I like it.
It quickly became clear that this place was a local secret.
Yeah.
A true hidden gem.
Right.
And that's what this article is really getting at.
Yeah.
Finding that perfect spot that aligns with your vision and resonates with the people you want to attract.
It's about finding that sweet spot where passion meets practicality.
I like it.
And speaking of practicality, this article doesn't let you forget about the importance of planning for the future.
You're talking about future-proofing your location, right?
Exactly.
Like making sure it can adapt and grow alongside your business.
Exactly. And the article emphasizes how crucial this is in a state like Utah, which is experiencing such rapid growth and change.
Right.
New residential developments, transportation expansions, even shifts in tourism patterns.
Yeah.
These can all impact your restaurant's success in the long run.
So let's say you're looking at a potential location.
Okay.
What are some of the questions you should be asking to make sure it's future-proof?
Well, first and foremost, you want to look at the surrounding area.
Okay.
Are there plans for new housing developments nearby?
Okay.
What about public transportation expansions?
Okay.
The article gives the example of the Sugar House neighborhood in Salt Lake City.
Right.
Once a sleepy streetcar suburb, it's now a bustling hub with a mix of residential, commercial, and entertainment options.
Right.
Largely due to its proximity to the TRAX light rail line.
For those who might not be familiar, the TRX is Salt Lake's light rail system, and it's been a game changer for connecting different parts of the valley.
Exactly.
Right.
And as more people embrace public transportation,
sure,
being located near a TRAX station can be a huge advantage for restaurants.
I bet.
Especially in terms of attracting those after-work crowds or tourists who are looking for an easy way to explore the city.
It's like you're tapping into a whole new stream of potential customers.
Precisely.
Right.
But future-proofing isn't just about external factors.
Okay.
It's also about asking yourself some tough questions about your own growth plans.
Yeah.
What are your long-term goals for this restaurant?
Okay.
Do you envision expanding your menu?
Okay.
Adding a bar?
Yeah.
Hosting private events?
Okay.
Because that cute little storefront might be perfect for your intimate 20-seat bistro concept now.
Right.
But what happens when you're ready to expand and there's simply no physical space to do so?
That's a good point.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to consider the scalability of a location.
Right.
Can you add on to the building if needed?
Okay.
Are there zoning laws that would prevent you from making significant changes in the future?
Interesting.
These are all questions to ask before you sign on the dotted line.
It's about having a vision for the future, but also being realistic about the limitations of a space.
Exactly.
And let's be honest, sometimes those limitations can spark unexpected creativity.
Sure.
Some of the most charming and successful restaurants I've been to have been those small, intimate spaces where the owners have really maximized every square inch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes those constraints can force you to get creative and come up with innovative solutions.
It's like that old saying, necessity is the mother of invention.
Right.
And speaking of invention, I'm curious, are there any unique challenges or opportunities that are specific to opening a restaurant in Utah from a location standpoint that our listeners should be aware of?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one thing that comes to mind is the whole liquor license situation in Utah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's no secret that the state has some pretty unique laws when it comes to alcohol.
Right.
And while the article we're discussing today doesn't delve into the specifics of liquor licenses, it does mention how important it is to be aware of these regulations.
Sure.
And to factor them into your location choice.
Because finding the perfect spot for your restaurant only to discover that you can't get a liquor license because you're too close to a school or a church, that would be a major buzzkill, to say the least.
Exactly. And beyond the legal aspects, there's also the cultural context to consider.
Right.
Utah has a large population of people who abstain from alcohol for religious or personal reasons.
Right.
So while having a full bar might be a major draw in other states, it might not be as crucial to your success here in Utah.
It's about understanding those nuances, those cultural factors that influence dining habits.
Precisely.
Right.
And this ties back to something we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The importance of market research.
Okay.
Take the time to understand the demographics of your chosen location, their preferences, their values.
Right.
It could mean the difference between a thriving business and one that struggles to find its footing.
It's about doing your homework, going beyond the surface level, and really understanding the landscape of the market you're entering.
That's right.
And I have to say, this article has given us so much to think about in that regard.
It really has.
Yeah.
It's a great reminder that choosing a location for your restaurant is a multifaceted decision with long-term implications.
It's not just about finding a space with a good view or a catchy address.
Right.
It's about understanding the needs and desires of your target audience.
Exactly.
Aligning your vision with the character of the neighborhood and setting yourself up for success both now and in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means being willing to challenge your assumptions.
Okay.
And explore those unexpected locations that might just surprise you.
It's about being open to those happy accidents, those serendipitous discoveries that can lead to something truly special.
Because sometimes the best locations are the ones you stumble upon when you least expect them.
It's like that saying, not all who wander are lost.
Right.
Sometimes those detours lead you to the best hidden gems.
Exactly.
You stumble upon something really special.
And sometimes those hidden gems are right under our noses.
Yeah.
It's about going beyond the obvious.
Okay.
And really connecting with the heart and soul of the community.
Which brings us back to that crucial piece of advice from the Manuvial blog article.
Yeah.
Trust your gut.
It's so important.
Right.
You can crunch numbers,
analyze
demographics, and create spreadsheets until you're blue in the face.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's something to be said for that intuitive feeling you get about a place.
It's like when you walk into a space and you just know.
Yes.
This feels right. This feels like home.
Exactly.
Right.
And that feeling, that connection can translate to everything.
Yeah.
From the atmosphere you create to the way you interact with customers.
It's about infusing your own passion and personality into the space.
Absolutely.
Making it an extension of who you are.
Yes.
And what you want your restaurant to represent.
And, that's something no algorithm or market analysis can predict.
Right.
It's about tapping into your own intuition, your own unique vision for what you want to create.
And trusting that the right location will reveal itself sometimes in the most unexpected of ways.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of restaurant locations in Utah, what are some final words of wisdom you want to leave our listeners with?
I'd say first and foremost, remember that this is a journey, not a race.
Okay.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer, no magic formula for finding the perfect location. It takes time, research, and a willingness to explore, to listen to your gut, and to be open to those happy accidents along the way.
And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
Talk to other restaurant owners.
Talk to everybody.
Right.
Connect with local real estate agents. Immerse yourself in the community and soak up all the knowledge and insights you can gather.
It's about gathering as much information as possible.
Exactly.
Right.
It's about building relationships, seeking out mentors, and learning from those who have been there before.
Right.
And remember, even with the best planning and preparation, there will be challenges along the way.
Oh, absolutely. Opening a restaurant is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not.
But it's those challenges, those moments of doubt and uncertainty that make the successes all the sweeter.
Absolutely. It's about embracing the journey, learning from your mistakes, and never losing sight of your passion.
Because at the end of the day, that passion, that unwavering belief in your vision is what will ultimately fuel your success.
Beautifully said.
Right.
And on that note, I think we've successfully navigated the ins and outs of finding that perfect restaurant location in Utah.
I think we did it.
We did.
We covered everything from understanding Utah's unique dining culture to deciphering zoning laws to trusting your gut.
It's a lot.
We crunched numbers, explored neighborhoods, and maybe even sparked some inspiration along the way.
Hopefully so.
Right.
And now it's up to you, our intrepid listeners, to take this knowledge, these insights, and turn them into action.
Go forth and make it happen.
Exact. To all those aspiring restaurateurs out there, we raise a toast of sparkling cider, of course, this being Utah.
Of course.
To your success.
Cheers to that.
May your restaurants be filled with delicious food, good company, and the sweet satisfaction of creating something truly special.
And to all our listeners,
yes,
thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll be back next time, ready to explore another topic that's got you hungry for knowledge.
Until then, happy eating.